like this, what we're doing like with Zoom is just the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like old school video, that was like choppy. Like this is just the beginning of it. So at some point we're going to be having like completely new universes. You'll be able to put the Oculus on, or you'll be able to put contacts on that you can actually see through, and you'll be a layered reality. So you'll be able to sit down, but you'll be able to have all these people around you, or you'll be able to be in a completely like separate venue from reality and, interact. It's going to be pretty neat, but I still think that's maybe 3 to 5 years away. The key is to be there when it's time. So start preparing your business now for taking advantage of virtual opportunities. And that includes having a virtual office.
Look into his eyes. They're the eyes of a man obsessed by
success.
Eyes that mock our sacred institutions. Bedroom eyes, they call them in a bygone day.
Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. So strong and impelling is the desire for sexual contact that men freely run the risk of life and reputation to indulge in. When harnessed and redirected along other lines, this motivating force maintains all of its attributes of keenness of imagination, courage, etc., which may be used as powerful creative forces in literature, art, or in any other profession or calling, including, of course, the accumulation of riches. Napoleon Hill.
Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, George. George, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Michelle. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be awesome. So let's get under the sheets as quick as possible. Let us know who you are and what you love to do.
Well, I have been in the internet marketing space for a very long time, launching a list of different products and businesses. I've done a lot of physical products. We've done magazines and books. And about 7 years ago, we moved from doing media and magazines and digital events and whatnot into totally digital events. And of course, that was before the pandemic. So that allowed us to be positioned very well for when everyone's ready to do these digital things. No one knew what to do and how to do it. So we've been putting on some pretty amazing events for a really long time. That's what we do.
Nice. I love it. So how did you get into events per se?
Yeah, my first virtual event was kind of like a quasi membership virtual event. I think I'd launched it in, I want to say 2000, 2003, something like, start to forget about that time, 20 years ago. I don't remember that well, but it was a virtual event for drummers. So I interviewed a bunch of drummers that I knew in LA and from all over the world, and we called it Drum Pro. And I coupled that with some like lessons on how to play drums, and we launched that. And it was like
with a couple of lessons. So
a couple of lessons.
So what were you interviewing them on, if not playing?
Well, just like what they're doing. I had this crazy idea for writing a book about all these amazing stories from the road. And I said, well, why don't I just do that in an interview series and start asking these crazy stories? Like, what is it that you, what's one of those memorable times you got to like the backstage stuff? Because everyone wants to go to the backstage and like, what are you working on now? So for drummers as well, like what are you doing to get your speed up and all that fun stuff. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun, actually. And that turned into a membership where people they stayed for a really long time. And that was my first entry into like digital marketing and like online business. And from there, it grew into lots of different things, courses and big email newsletters and like all kinds of things from that. But that was my first like real step into it.
Nice. I love that. Well, and before we move on into modern times, gotta know, did any of them spill the beans on their stories?
Yeah, but I've been sworn to secrecy for some of them. There was a lot more interesting conversations happening offline. Yeah, well, there was some of that like, this is being recorded, right? I'm like, well, let me turn the recorder off for a minute. And then you get the real deal. I heard some very interesting stories about Ringo Starr and those cats from way back when. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
Nice. So peeps, you're going to have to go and pay for the membership to find out what those are, or hunt it down somewhere if it still exists. So moving on to kind of the event thing, what made you decide to transition over?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about like self-driving cars. And I watched the writing on the wall. to kind of see where we're headed. Cause I've always been that guy that's been behind the trend. Like I thought of that so long ago, but I didn't do anything about it. Daggone it. And then someone else makes $100 million with that idea. And I said, well, this time I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to watch the trends. And I started seeing us moving from a reading-based economy for content marketing to more of a listening and consuming through our eyes and ears based economy. So I said, okay, I think we're going to probably go there. And then with the self-driving cars and everything else, just it makes total sense. People are going to be like chilling out as they're going to the Miami airport, like listening to an audiobook or whatever.
I still want to know where my Jetson car is.
Yeah, well, that's coming. Just wait. Metaverse is here, and it's all around us. You just can't see it right now, like the multiverse thing. So when we started getting out of that area, I started saying, okay, like it's way easier to create content this way, and it's also a neat way of getting into people's lives that normally wouldn't let you into their lives. And you probably know this with the podcasting world. When you ask someone for 15 minutes, their consulting fees all of a sudden come out, but get them on the podcast, get them on a summit interview or those types of things, like they'll spend an hour with you and they just they spill it, all of it. And it's like, you can ask them all kinds of amazing questions. So a curious mind makes the best interviewer. So I would say always coming in with a beginner's mind or a curious mind, you can create some amazing content and get some great things for yourself, even in your own business to use. And we started that process to say, who else, if I need this, who else needs this too? And that's why we say, okay, let's create a product that we can use, but then let's also sell that product as well.
I love that. So who do you find uses it the most? Who benefits and who do you love to work with?
Yeah, I think everyone benefits. The way that I built our model for our summits is the speakers themselves, they get a lot of exposure because our events, most people that have been to a virtual event, they'll see, 50 to maybe 500 people there. And they're like, wow, it's a really big event. Our events are 10,000 or more people virtually. So that's like the average event. There's some that go like 4,000, 5,000, but then there's some that go like 50,000. So we kind of err on that side of being a little bit bigger, and we're trying to change the business model for virtual events a little bit bigger, right? Size doesn't matter, or does it?
I don't think any woman's ever complained of anybody that.
Yeah, we'll move on from that question.
Will we? Oh, okay. So
this is all right. Everything goes right. That's what you said.
Just say everything goes. So come on, we gotta intrigue people somehow. Otherwise, just makes it normal.
It's just any other podcast at that point.
Nothing's worse than normal. So when it comes to having that many people in a venue, I'm assuming that those are virtual events that you're having like 50,000 people at. What are your plans moving into the future? Are you going to continue to do those or?
Yeah, we have no plans of stopping. We're doing about 40 or 50 events a year right now. We used to just do our own by ourselves. And then people started asking us like, what are you doing? Like, can you help me with my event? And I said, well, yeah, I'll help you out. Like, be my friend. And then they started getting crazy. They get 25,000 people in their event. Like, you need to be teaching this stuff, man. I'm like, oh, I don't know. There's a bunch of people out there teaching this stuff already, and they're not doing a good job. I don't know. But then eventually I said, I probably should do it. So that's why we started working with people. Instead of teaching it, we're actually partnering with people. So it's a bit of a different model where we make sure we get skin in the game, they get skin in the game. Because it's the only way I think that people actually will go to the finish line is if you drag them across the finish line in some cases. And I didn't want our name to get put in the barrel with all the people who are not really teaching the right stuff because someone didn't finish their program. Like, oh, I bought that didn't work. Like, I didn't want that to happen. So that's where we go. So where we're going in the future, to answer your question, is virtual reality, metaverse. It's going to be crazy where we're headed. And we're already in some associations. We're watching what's happening. Like this, what we're doing now with Zoom is just the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like old school video, that was like choppy. Like this is just the beginning of it. So at some point we're going to be having like completely new universes. You'll be able to put the Oculus on, or you'll be able to put contacts on that you can actually see through, and you'll be a layered reality. So you'll be able to sit down, but you'll be able to have all these people around you, or you'll be able to be in a completely like separate venue from reality and, interact. It's going to be pretty neat, but I still think that's maybe 3 to 5 years away. The key is to be there when it's time. So start preparing your business now for taking advantage of virtual opportunities. And that includes having a virtual office. That's super important. If you don't have a virtual office right now, you're losing out on like amazing talent. People who just don't want to go back to work. They don't want to be babysat, for a 9-to-5 job. They want to have flexibility and freedom, and they want to work from Thailand where it's $500 a month to live. or whatever the scenario is. So people need to be thinking in the business space of like, how do I take advantage of this opportunity that's right in front of us and, move into that space.
Nice. I love it. So do you have any particular neighborhoods that you've bought into that you're suggesting that people should buy land in?
You mean the metaverse part?
Yep.
No, not really. My recommendation is get a good microphone, get a good camera, and start getting familiar with what's going on. I would suggest, though, that anyone who's not in crypto yet should be getting some crypto, because the crypto itself is what's going to power the metaverse moving forward. And everyone says, well, I could have bought Bitcoin when it was like 15 cents. It's still 15 cents comparatively to where it's going, right? It's going to go next. So keep that in mind. Like, it will always keep increasing. Inflation's never going to stop. The governments are going to keep printing money. Crypto will keep being worth more money and more valuable, because it's the nature of the universe we live in, whether it's metaverse or physical verse, right?
There is definitely an interesting economic twist going on, but we won't go into that conversation at this point. So when it comes to, because I've seen people do demonstrations of going into the metaverse, having virtual coffee, going to a stand-up show, people are having concerts, people are putting on mega concerts in the metaverse, and there's like tons of money going around there right now, especially in the entertainment world and in the sporting world, which I find fascinating. And you're saying the business world is going to be on par with that, or slightly behind, or do you see them taking over? What do you see them doing?
So here's what I would say. I know all your listeners are going to love this. Watch the porn industry. They're the ones that, honestly, like this thing we're doing right now would not exist without porn. YouTube would not exist without porn. And it's whether you like it or you don't like it, that's what moves. I mean, it's been around for a really long time, thousands of years. People have been doing porn in one shape or another, right? Whether it's hanging off of a vine doing it or hanging off of a pole doing it, it's going to happen either way. So I would say watch what they're doing, because if you don't have to frequent the sites, but if at least you can see what's going on. You must have an OnlyFans account, and you must have 3,000 credits. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know anything about OnlyFans. Trust me.
I don't know what I mean.
But because they're the ones that are driving think about this. That's what drives the economy. That's what's driving the digital economy right now. So whatever happens there, usually between, I would say 3 to 5 years later, it seeps its way into marketing, because marketers will catch wind of what's going on over there, and they'll start saying, how can I use this? How can I leverage this in my business? And that's where you'll start to see that drift, and that drift will start to become the mainstream, and then it starts to grow from there. So I would say watch that, and you'll kind of get an idea of where things are going to head.
Well, I'm having flashbacks of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Forget what the name of the one was, but they're in the reality tube. It wasn't just the glasses, it was a tube, and basically they'd pay to go in the tube and do the thing, and it's like, wow, reality. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that.
There's going to be a lot of that.
That's population control right there, right? You want to control the population, like bring the population down, just give everyone like porn and dolls to deal with, right?
Exactly. Because God knows they won't stop touching themselves. So you may as well let them do that. That's hilarious. So getting back to the whole summits and things, and when you're using huge numbers like 50,000 people at an event, I'm assuming that somebody that's kind of listening to this and going, hey, I'm just starting off on it. Somebody told me it was a good idea, that I might want to do it. I don't even know how my audience would respond to a summit. What do you have to say to those beginners?
Well, first off, anything the mind can perceive, it can achieve. Don't think you can't do this. And it sounds like too grand, like I can never do that type of thing. Well, the truth is anyone can do it. It just takes planning, strategic planning, but it also takes making some mistakes along the way and just jumping in and making it happen. So what I would suggest is this: start small. If you have a small list, start small, do your own virtual event. Like what I'm talking about, 50,000 people, we're not putting those people on Zoom. Because even Tony Robbins on the live events, I think he maxes out about 25,000 people. That's about, if you know what goes into making an event like that, it's literally like 300 computers running a live Zoom room, and they're all linked together and they're streaming. It's really complicated to do that. What we're talking about is pre-recorded events. And I've done pretty much every different type of digital event that you can imagine. The easiest thing to do, I've been on planes like flying overseas when our summer summits launch. And it's like, you don't have to be there live because it doesn't require you to be there. People don't show up, people flake out. It can be really like nerve-wracking if you're waiting for people to do something and they don't follow through. So you pre-record your interviews, and it doesn't have to be 30 or 50 interviews. It could be 10, it could be 20. It doesn't have to be that many, but all around a pain point. Like say you have a general pain point. Let's pick one. Let's talk Metaverse, right? So people want to know how to take advantage of Metaverse. You do an event about that. Like, what are the pains and fears and frustrations people have? Like, what crypto should I buy to use in Metaverse? What land should I buy? You mentioned that earlier, Michelle, in the Metaverse. How do I monetize that land? Is anyone buying this stuff? And yeah. Like even talking about gear, goggles, or what's the scenario? Like, how do people get into the, how do I bring my customers into the Metaverse if it's a business related event, right? What kind of safeguards are there for my customers? Like if there's kids and stuff like that, what kind of liabilities do I have? What happens if someone does something really bad, in the Metaverse? I'm not sure what that would look like yet, but if they did something bad to somebody else, like, are you liable? Like these are some pains, fears, and frustrations people have. So you build topics around some of those. And what happens is when someone hits the page and they read it and they say, wow, how'd you know what I was thinking? I was just talking to my spouse the other day about this. And like, yeah, I need to be on this event. And it creates a very high conversion rate for people to get on. You just have them opt in. So you do it for free, do all these events for free, and then charge them for the recordings. If they want the recordings, and it's counterintuitive. Most businesses would say, what? I'm not going to dry someone's clothes for free and then charge them only if they like it, like a dry cleaner. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, if you do that, you will make more money because we've tested this out. I'm not saying dry people's clothes for free, but I'm just saying in general, and that might actually work. I mean, that might be completely change your industry. But when you do this with the digital events, people generate reciprocity. They want to do something because you're giving them something of such value. Don't let anyone pitch on your summit because then it becomes a pitch fest. No one likes those. You want to keep control of the conversation that's happening and just deliver value, and then give them an opportunity to buy. That puts them into your funnel. Of course, if you want to, Michelle, we can go a little bit deeper into this, like funnel stuff, like upsells and how to maximize the revenue potential if you have time. Sure. But that's the first step into it. Okay, here we go. Your upsell funnel, you should make sure that it's set up on a platform that does one clicks, which means you can do one click, add it to your order. Everyone's seen the Amazon thing where, hey, just other people bought this and add that. That's not what I'm talking about. That's shopping cart technology. Those conversion rates are super, super low. What you want to do is just give them one offer at a time. Yes or no decisions, not A, B, or C decisions. Tested thousands of times. You will always convert better with yes and no decisions. This means, do you want to buy the Summit VIP Pass or not? VIP Pass would be $37 to $97. That gets the recordings, notes, and some bonuses, right? They say yes, goes into a page, says, congratulations, we're going to send your VIP Pass shortly. But before you go, you might want to do this, or you might want to buy this because this is going to help you get speed. Get speed to that solution, which could be like, we're going to give you a step-by-step process of how to get online in the Metaverse, how to make the right investments. We have a whole digital course. That's when you sell your digital program about the Metaverse. Keep in mind, we talked about the summits, right? So if the summit's about a Metaverse type of thing, you're giving them all of the pains, some solutions, they can solve their own problems. You're not just like poking the pain and that's it. You're giving them a speed. How do they get there faster? How do they get the end result that they want faster? And then you can do a thing called automation. That'd be your second upsell. They just click one button, which is they go to the next thing. Say, yeah, I want that. They add that to their order. They click no, you can still send them the same offer. The next offer might be, well, you don't have to do anything. We'll set it up for you. We'll set up your whole Metaverse thing for you. You'll be part of our consulting program. Maybe it's a high-end mastermind, whatever those things might be. You want to make it really easy, like lower the friction for them to click on the button and reverse the risk. Don't be afraid of giving people a 90-day, a 6-month, or a 1-year guarantee. People freak out about that. They're like, that I talk about, like, well, I don't know if I want to give my best stuff. They have all my intellectual property. If you give them like, well, yeah, I'll give you this for 7 days, they're going to remember in 7 days to cancel. They're going to take your intellectual property and they're going to download it and then they're going to cancel it. If you give them 90 days, they forget about it. Everyone's attention span's like this big now, and
forget where they downloaded.
Yeah. And you know what? They'll buy it again. It's crazy. You know how many times you bought something, the same thing, and later on you're like, I bought that already. I daggone it. And it's just not worth like haggling over a small amount of price, in those cases. And that stuff adds up. So that's how you would start the process of doing the funnels. And it can be a lot more complicated if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very simple. Every upsell that you put in place will double your revenue. So for example, let's say you make $30,000 from the front of a summit, or 100,000. Let's just take a $30,000 example. If you put one upsell in front of it and you do a 3x multiplier, which means if the summit is $97 for the VIP pass, then you sell them a course for $297. If it's a good converting offer, you will double the amount of money you make. So now you'll make 60,000 total. You make 30,000 from the back end, and only 10% or 30% of the people who bought will buy the second one. But that's all you need, because remember, there's a 3x multiplier. You do the same thing for the second upsell. It goes to $997 or $999, right? You'll double your money again. So now you're up to $90,000 in revenue from that. And then if you do like a what we call a Hail Mary offer, which is like the 15K, the 25K mastermind, or whatever the scenario, coaching type of thing, you'll have a few people take that, but that'll put you over into the 6-figure range. And keep in mind, that's from a $97 product that you're giving away for free. The people are buying, but they're buying all these upsells. And we see this routinely happen. So it's totally possible.
I love it. And do you work with people to help them to develop what those products are and kind of how to maintain that story arc, as I like to call it?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have to partner with folks, because I don't know everyone's business intimately. So for me to try to teach that and kind of be there for some guidance, it's really tough. And a personal coach, in a lot of cases, a personal coach is not going to be able to coach you through that, because they just don't know what they don't know. If they've never been in the game and they've never been on the 50-yard line, responsible for like the win or lose pass, they're giving you hypotheticals of what they've heard someone else talk about before, what they think. So you really need to be in the trenches with someone. That's why I like the partnership model that we developed. So we're actually in there with them. They can talk with me about it. We script out and manage their funnel, so we know exactly what's going to be on there. We help them kind of organize and outline their programs if they don't have something really. And we'll actually set up their whole membership site for them. Like, we don't charge them extra money. It's not like we'll give you a menu, like, here's all the stuff. It's like, we're sharing revenue. So like, let's make as much as we can, and let's impact people as much as we possibly can. So we just get it done. That's how we pretty much do that. It does take a little bit of effort. I would say this: if you want to try to start mapping this out on your own, all sales, no matter what it is derived from some sort of pain someone wants to solve. So you got to get in there and say, okay, what are the pains that my avatar, what's the pain that my person that I'm trying to help, trying to solve? And it might not be the same thing you're trying to sell them. It might be something that's connected to that pain that they need to either solve before they can fix this one, or maybe it's the next pain that they're going to have after this one. So you can actually, that's how you create bundles or product pyramid of different products that you can sell people. So always revolve around the pain. And for those naysayers who say, well, I don't like to talk about pain. I want to take the higher road. I want to talk about the good stuff.
I don't know if you can be called a naysayer and say, I want to go for the good stuff. But I totally get it, because once upon a time I was like, no, I refuse to do negative marketing. I'm not going to be responsible for taking people there. And then I realized in the digital world, people don't look to gain something. They look to solve a problem for the most part. And unless you're in a very elite area of things, and even if you're looking to buy a Lamborghini online or a BMW online, there's still certain pain points. Like, you don't want to look like a loser, do you?
That's the pain,
Exactly.
You want to get more chicks because you feel like a loser? Here's a Lamborghini for you. You don't want the red one. You want the green one, because everyone has a red one, so exactly. You want to stand up different. You don't want to be like everybody else, right? So there's all these like little pains. You just have to you have to drill down and find out what their big challenge is and help them overcome it. That's all we're doing. But you can't help them overcome something on a positive note unless you know what their challenge is. But you have to mention the challenge, and you have to poke that pain so they know that pain is not okay to stay there any longer, because you've got a solution for them. So that's why, I was just going to say that build all of your marketing around that.
Nice. I love it. So when they're looking to put on a summit, how long do you typically want as a leeway?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are some people out there who teach, or they try to teach the summit stuff, and they say that expect a year of your life to get burned up. Yeah, if you're doing it the wrong way, it could be a year of your life. But by the time you've done that recording, a year later, that person that you did the interview with doesn't have facial hair anymore. They're divorced, or now they got some new married. Like their life has changed. It's not relevant to them. So you want to keep in mind that you got to keep it relevant to the people you're working with as well, who's on there, because they want to promote the summit. They're supposed to be the promoters of the event. So what I suggest is spend about 2 weeks or so. This is exactly what we do. I'll just tell you what we do. We spend 2 weeks on copy. 6 to 7 phone calls. We go through that, and we really get down to the pains, fears, and frustrations. We write everything out, with our partner. Once that's done, we say take about 4 to 6 weeks and do your interviews. So I would say take 1 to 2 weeks and book your interviews for the last 3 to 4 weeks. And then you do all the bookings back and forth, especially for a woman, for example, who's wearing makeup and things like, you got to get yourself made up. Mm-hmm. Or if you got to set your lights up behind you, you set all the stuff up. You don't have to keep setting it up and tearing it down, set it up and tear it down. So you get them all done at the same time. I've done an entire summit before in 1 week, just like hammer it out, book them all for 2 weeks in advance, back to back with maybe 15-minute break, and just do interviews like constantly for a whole week, be the whole summit done. Then it's 6 weeks of waiting. So we had 2 weeks of copy, 4 to 6 weeks of recordings, and then 6 weeks of waiting. And the waiting is not you're waiting for us to do anything. The waiting is actually waiting for your affiliates to start to mail, because you want to give them enough runway to mail for that. That's roughly about a 90-day window. So you can do a really solid summit in 90 days. We've done 50-person summits in 7 days from the initial idea, like, hey, we're going to run a summit on the pandemic, right? We would do that. And then 7 days later, we opened cart and 50 interviews. We didn't have all the interviews done. We were still recording a few people that were just like laggers, but you can do them very quickly, especially if it's a timely subject. Just try to keep your content as timeless as possible. So it doesn't have to take you a long time to ROI.
And if they don't have their content set up, like the upsells and the downsells, cross sells, if they don't have that all in place, I'm assuming you just kind of conceptualize it. And then as you're in that waiting period, that gives them time to go and do any preliminary recordings or things like that.
You can. It's not necessary. We've done, I would say 50% of our summits we do without a back end. Like they're just not ready for it. But they said, I would just want to do a build, a list build. I want to get some revenue coming in. I want to become known as and recognized as an expert in my space. So the first thing I want to do is like, let's launch the summit. Let's get that going. And that's okay. People are okay with that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be done. Done is better than perfect. Because once you get it done, you have EPCs, you have your numbers, you know what the conversion rates are. It's going to be really easy to relaunch that summit. And if you do it the right way, where the content is fresh and it's not timely, which means it's like anti-aging, right? Yeah, anti-aging technology is not going to change that much year to year. Probably not any like major breakthroughs, right? It's going to be the same content. You're going to be talking about stuff that's happening in your body, talking about effects of the sun, talking about cancer, like whatever else the scenario is. You can do that. Like Metaverse would change because it's moving so fast. Anything that's technology based would probably change very quickly. General marketing wouldn't change. Raising kids won't change. A lot of that stuff. So you do summits around things that are topics that people have had pains in this space for dozens of years or hundreds of years even. And then you can continue to relaunch those summits over and over and over again and get sponsorships even where they might want to come on and tap into that, those audience eyeballs.
So when you say relaunch it, are you relaunching with the same speakers?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you don't promote or you're not a very good speaker, you can always replace them with somebody else who will. So there's a way of it, kind of like it's calling some of the bad, I wouldn't say the bad people, but the people who really didn't like stick to their word. And that happens a lot. There's, I would say, out of every summit, 10% of them won't promote. But if you only expect 20% of them to promote, then you'll always be okay because you'll never be disappointed. You'll be, everything will be all right. But you relaunch with the same summit over and over and over again. We've launched a few summits now I think there's 3 summits we've launched that's been like 3 or 4 times. We just keep relaunching it over and over and over again, just within the last 2 years, by the way.
Wow.
That's not going way back. We've had summits that have been 5 years old. We relaunched same content and it made more money the second time we launched than the first time. And we launched that 3 times. 3 times we launched that one summit. So it did like 150K, same content. It doesn't have to be a lot of different stuff.
Wow. Because I was going to ask you if there's a way to reutilize that content after the initial summit, but if you're going to redo it, you want to keep it in its original formats.
Yeah, you could use pieces of it if you want to for promotional material. What I would say is don't allow it out on the internet because speakers will ask you, well, can I get a copy of my talk? What I tell them is, well, we don't give copies of the talk. I'll give you an audio if you want audio, but not the video because it'll end up on YouTube. Even though you say you're not going to do it, you'll forget about it. Someone will forget about it and your team will put it up on YouTube. And it's not really fair to the people who bought it. Plus, we're planning on relaunching this content like over and over and over again, which just means more eyeballs for you. And when you explain to them like that, they're like, oh, okay, well, no, I don't need it. I've got plenty of my own stuff, right? So that just keep that in mind. Like you want to keep control over the content, even though it will get out. some people will just like download it or copy it or whatever else. That happens. Don't freak out about it, but try not to make it easy for them to do that.
Right. And I assume it makes more sense in certain industries to actually do a second summit, because now you don't have the panic. Now you don't have you're not herding cats trying to get all the speakers to do their talks. And for the most part, I would think that a lot of them, like you say, are going to be, it's the same talk they do every time anyway. So why not just reutilize that? And is there anything to, it was held in a certain month, so we should hold it in that same month, just in case anybody says October, fall?
Yeah. Usually they don't say that. Usually they'll make a reference to a book that they're putting out, or they'll make a reference to like pandemic or something like that. So you just got to watch that and make a note. If someone's making those, you got to edit that out, or stop for a second, be like, hey, can you start that over again? But don't say that, but you have to make a note of when that happened. Right. So your editors can go back and clean it out. We had this really bad experience one time. This guy, he recorded all this recordings, didn't tell us that there was any edits, because I'd say only 5% of the time that we need to do any edits to Summit recording. It's pretty easy. Like you turn it on and you turn it off, you talk. It's a conversation. You don't edit your conversation, say, strike that from the record. It doesn't happen, right? And we want it to be very organic and not be too staged. So he didn't bother to tell us. And what happened was we launched the summit and people started sending us emails saying, yeah, I think you might need to edit some of this stuff. There's some background stuff going on. And I wanted to listen to it. And he was saying things halfway through the interview, be like, oh, sorry, strike that. Sorry, editing guy. Okay, let's start that over again. And because I couldn't see it on the waveform when I pulled up the audio, you can't see that stuff. So you have to be paying attention. And it was a weird scenario. Like we didn't work with him directly. He was a hired gun for a company we worked with. So it was like the influencer doing the interviews. So there was some miscommunication there. Of course, we fixed it within 24 hours. As soon as we found it, we're like, chop it all up and fix it. But it was just a little embarrassing. It's like, probably 100 people saw it at that point because it was pretty early on, luckily.
Right. And hopefully the more forgiving ones, knowing full well that it's going to be recording anyway, so it just didn't matter to them.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So give us an example of one of your Cinderella stories, one of your favorite clients you've worked with.
Let's see. Cinderella stories. Well, the very first person that I worked with outside of, our own events, he was the guy that said, you need to be teaching this stuff. That was one of those scenarios where I won't say who it is, but he said, I've never had more than $100,000 in my bank account.
Wow.
He said, this has been transformative for me. They went on to do a number of summits, after this process, because they got their foot in the door and people started knowing who they were and they had something to brag about. Again, I won't talk about the niche, but that niche, there was 5 of the same niche summits that year. And we were number 4 out of all 5. And we did, I think, 2 or 3 times more money than all of them did combined with that one. It did over $200,000 in sales at that point. And it's just like, it was life-changing for him and his wife at that point. And it really get them, they were already on the map, but they weren't on the map in that kind of a way. So that was a really great one. Other ones, I would just say people who really have a cause. This is a really good one. I'll tell you this one. There's one we did with a company that they have a nonprofit for healthy pregnancy. And they came to me and they said, we want to get this message out. We have a nonprofit. Like we want to stop like childhood disorders and like developmental disorders before they happen, before the child's born. And we think we can do that in the prenatal stage. Right. And I said, okay, this sounds very interesting. So we launched the Healthy Pregnancy Summit, and they've gone on to launch and relaunch and launch and relaunch. They had Honest Company was one of their sponsors for that event. After they saw what we were doing, they're like, this is amazing. So Jessica Alba came on and wanted to promote the event. So her CEO from Honest Company came on and did a really great talk about how amazing the content was. It's like all doctors, talking about this stuff. So they've turned that into a mainstay of their nonprofit organization, which generates a lot of their support and their revenue, for the event. And I think that, so you can use it outside of making money. You can actually use it in a nonprofit event as well. For someone who wants to just do a lot of good in the world, it doesn't always have to be like all about the dollars and cents. It could be also about the lives that you affect.
That's awesome. I love that. And when you're doing it, do you find that people are kind of caught up on certain aspects of it? Like, oh, I have to have a headliner, or I have to have this.
Yeah, they say that all the time. They're like, oh, but we just can't get anyone big names on there. It's like, well, you don't need them. Honestly, the big names aren't going to promote it anyway, half the time, they just don't follow through. And the biggest summits we've done are not the ones that have big names on them. They're the ones that have, I wouldn't say nobodies, but they're marketers. They have big lists. They have very good relationships with their list. It's really more important about the relationship that person has with their list. Or social media audience. That's another like false solution that people have. Like, well, I got a big audience. This person has 600,000 people. We had somebody, an influencer, I won't name the name. Everyone knows she's been on multiple movies. She promoted one of our summits as an influencer, 600,000 people on her list. I think we had something like 50 emails opt in out of 600,000 social media Instagram followers. Like, social media does not work when it comes to summits. It's worthless. It's completely worthless. What is worth is emails. So if someone has a very engaged email list, I'll take 2,000 email list over a 600,000 Instagram following or Facebook following every day of the week.
Absolutely.
Okay, so keep that in mind.
And it's, I think, so important to understand it, especially as a business person, that your social media following doesn't contribute to the goodwill of your company at all. In fact, sometimes it can be a detriment to it. And your email list, however, even with unsubscribed or not unsubscribed, but non-deliverability issues that are going on currently, that will get resolved, and it's still, you own that content, and it's your ability to be able to upsell, sell, downsell, reignite, get people involved in your business again.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say on the social media side, there's one thing I think it might be useful for, although I don't necessarily buy into this 100%, because it's a time suck, social media is. People will look for you on social media before they do business with you. And I don't like that for the reason that you just mentioned, Michelle, because you can't control what people comment on, what people say. Like, there's a lot of competitive people out there that will like try to put things in the comments, or just try to bring you down on social media, right? You get all those flamers.
And trolls are real.
Trolls, yeah, they are real. They're not just in Dungeons and Dragons, man. They're real. They're out there. I've seen them. They crawl around my neighborhood sometimes. So if you don't have a presence, some sort of presence, it could be detrimental, because we've had people come to us and say, well, we were thinking about doing business with your company, but we went with another company because we looked you up on social media and we found we didn't see anything. I'm like, yeah, because I don't waste my time with that crap.
Right.
And then I heard that more than once. I'm like, maybe we should start wasting our time with that crap. So we started posting a little bit. It's just a time suck though. It takes so much time, but it's worthwhile to put stuff up on a regular basis. Even if you're spending, $300 a month to have someone just cut up little bits of something or other and just post them. It's better to have something than nothing in that case. That's all it's good for. It's not really good. You're not going to make any money from social media. Like posting stuff on social media, trying to make money, forget it. You're not going to make any money doing that. Unless you're an influencer charging people to post on your social media account, which they're not going to get very good results anyway. So who cares? That's a dying industry right there. This whole influencer thing on social media, that will die out at some point. It's not good. Yeah. Yay. Because as soon as social media companies figure out that you're making more money than they are, they will stop that. And then they will make you charge, they'll charge you for advertising, which is what Facebook did. Groups used to be amazing.
Right.
Groups are not amazing anymore, because they were losing that revenue.
Yeah. All comes back down to that mighty dollar. But George, you've been awesome. I could talk to you forever. You know that. And I know other people are going to want more of you. So how did they begin that journey with you?
Well, you've probably already been on some of our summits and didn't even know it, because we try to keep a low profile. However, if you want to check out some of the stuff we're doing, you can go to 360summits.com. You can check out the schedule link and you can see some of our summits we have coming up. We're always doing new stuff. There's health and wellness, there's business, there's relationships, there's personal development stuff. There's all different kinds of aspects of things. So it's like, we love people who love learning, and we want to help them on that journey. So I would say, come on board with that journey with us, and let's change the world together. So 360summits.com. If you want to talk about doing a summit, reach out to me. There's a scheduled link. You actually talk to me personally. Happy to talk to you and see if you got a good idea. Maybe we can do something. If not, I'll at least tell you what to do and you can try it on your own.
That sounds awesome. So I have to know, George, at what point in life did you know that you were a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
I think I didn't even know it at the time. I was probably, I don't know, 10 or something, buying stuff and then taking it to school and selling it.
Nice.
Trying to make a few bucks on the
play
side.
with it, go, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, like, I'll trade this up for a better Huffy bicycle, right? So that type of thing, like paint it, get a paint job. I was rehabbing bicycles beforehand, all that stuff. So it's something that's just in your blood when you're an entrepreneur. You just you don't know it's there until someone points out that it's there. And then you recognize, it's been there all along.
Hey, that's that crazy thing I've been doing. I get it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I also have to ask you, there are times in an entrepreneur's journey where, they do a couple of face plans once in a while. Do you have any of those mistakes that you've made in business that you found really funny?
Really funny. You mean the very painful ones, you mean?
Well, they might have been fun to watch.
Yeah, from an outside third-party point of view, right?
Ideally, one that you actually look back and go, yeah, that was pretty funny.
Oh man, there's just too many. I would say trying to do too much, trying to be an opportunity hoarder. I'd say if I was going to pick a common thread of the thing that kind of strings them all together, it's the opportunity hoarding that causes a problem the most, because you're not focused. Or hoard, hoarding, right? It's trying to do too many things and not focusing on one thing is really important. Like I was in a mastermind. Most people who've been in internet marketing space know the name Jeff Walker. So I was in Jeff Walker's Platinum Plus mastermind for a while. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said always stuck out to me, and I really liked it. He said, think of your life as a bookshelf. He said, for you to put something else on your bookshelf, you need to remove a book. And I've been doing the IKEA lifestyle. I just go buy another IKEA shelf and put more on my, it doesn't work, right? You have to figure out which books you want to take off, because you don't get to put that book back on. Okay. And you should treat your business like that. Now I'm talking about a bookshelf that has 50 books. I'm talking about a bookshelf that has like 5. Like, what are the 5 things in your life that you really are that important to you to make progress? And pick those things very carefully, because you do need to remove one in order to put another one on there. So, and when an opportunity comes, look at the impact that opportunity is going to have on everything else in your life. And it's okay to say no. You should actually say no first, rather than say yes. Let me think about it. You say, I don't think it's going to work for me. And if you can't sleep at night and it's more persistent, then take another look at it.
Nice. Interesting perspective on things. George, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I know how valuable it is. Any last words for our peeps? I
would say, people say fail fast, and make mistakes so you can get out, in front of things and be successful. I would say, don't try to fail fast. Just try to be strategic in what you do. Fail strategically. Have a backup plan so that you can always get back up quickly. And don't be afraid to fail, because failure is actually, you'll learn more from failures if you document the failure than you will from the successes that you have. Because successes happen much more rarely than failures happen. So take those as learning experiences.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you, George.
You bet.
Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec, your mistress in business. Thank you for being here today. Be sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app and share it with a friend, because, we like it when you share. Thank you for listening to the Little Blue Pill for Business podcast with your mistress in business, Michelle Nedelec. Why are you still here? Go to littlebluepillforbusiness.com and get your goodies. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share it with somebody else that you know would enjoy getting it up in business, after you subscribe to the podcast, of course, so you won't miss any future episodes. Now, check the notes for links. Oh, and only tell your wife if she's into this, entrepreneurship. And I'll see you both on the other side.